that school doesn't work on intelligence. School works on two languages. These are mathematics, or the language of communication used by the country. English, French, German, whatever it is. And that these languages work on rules. And if the child is able to focus and to practice these rules, they become very proficient in the subject, and so all subjects. If they are more distracted than that student, or if they are bored or fed up in the class, so their mind drifts and they concentrate less on these rules, they don't understand them, or they become confused with them and they don't know how to think, they give a lower answer. But let's go a little bit deeper here. You see, if a student of any age is motivated to want to learn, if they're able to control the distractions that play on their mind, so they examine information very clearly, they interrogate it, they listen or they read very, very precisely. So this information is going very finely, precisely into the memory networks, where it's connecting with information previously sought of the same caliber. So clear information is connecting with clear information, and therefore they're able to recognize the meaning of what they're looking at or the question they're asked. They can give a very good response. But of course, as we've explained, most students don't have this factor of motivation, or are more troubled by factors that play in their mind. So they examine information less precisely. They don't listen so well, or they scan read it. And this causes the information to go vague into the memory, where it's connected with information that was equally stored by vague experiences because of their life circumstance. And so they have struggled to recognize really what they're looking at and to formulate a good response. And of course, this is compounded by factors of insecurity and the fear of making a fool of themselves with other students or feeling inadequate with the teacher. And that pulls down their ability to interact. It's as simple as that. If you look at the image of the hotel, the image on the right is very clear. So if you're very interested in this hotel, this is the image you'll put into your memory, and you'll be able to remember it later. If you're less interested, you're vaguely aware of it, then that vague impression is what you're putting in, and you can see how difficult it is to later recognize and relate to other hotels like that if you're trying to understand how to deal with the question. It's the same with the car. If you're really interested in that red car, that very precise information is what you'll put into your memory, and you can relate to it or other examples very easily. If you're less interested, then the vague impression is what you put in, and so you have trouble again to relate to it. It's as simple as that. It's all really to do with the factor of interrogation, association, and application. So by the quality, by the sensitivity by which the individual examines information, so they can relate that to previous experiences and give a very fine response. You know, we tend to find that the girls do very well in school. They get higher grades than boys in general. Well, this is because girls are very calm. They examine information very carefully, whereas boys are more active and more excited to run around, so they are more vague in how they process information. Of course, the exception is myopic boys, because by their poor eyesight, they are more careful with the examination of information and less desiring to run around because they feel less secure physically. Let me show you what I mean. In the picture, we can see a teacher teaching two children how to draw a letter A. And it can be anything, Pythagoras, whatever it is. It's just a teaching, learning experience. Now, the little girl is very happy. She loves the teacher and she wants to be like the teacher. So she's very careful in how she draws the letter A. She's very, very careful. A lot of concentration. But the boy's happy, but he wants to go and play football. So his mind is waiting for the bell to ring, and he's thinking about who's got the ball and who can be in his team. His mind is alternating between the task at hand and somebody else that's playing on his mind. So because of this, his attention is less, his concentration is less, his focusing is less. Now, at the end of the lesson, the teacher will accept everybody's A's and move on to the next lesson. Let's look at this again. As lesson moves to lesson and year to year, so the girl's high sensitivity in dealing with information and the memory networks she had developed would enable her great skill to score A's in many subjects, while the boy's lack of sensitivity and poorer means of association and so less efficient memory networks would cause him to score C's, since the boy would normally develop through the skill he has built upon, so his scores would be expected to average about C's throughout his entire school career. And so how the ability of any student
can be dramatically improved if the teacher knows how to so motivate their students, reinforce the rules they earlier misunderstood, and gives constant reassurance to help each feel they are worthy of the task and able to suppress the many distractions that play upon their mind.
And because he believes the teacher knows what she's doing, he will believe he's only worth a C. And therefore his effort will only be what he thinks a C is worth. It's very important to understand the psychology. Students trust the value of the worth that the teacher tells them they're worth. So please understand that when you're teaching children, or any students of any age, university, whatever, make the lesson fun and exciting to help them to want to be very careful in how they consider the information you're presenting to them. Help them to be precise, concentrate, and focus on it. And that will help them to build up elaborate networks for good memory. It will also help them to put aside the factors that are disturbing them. And the young people today live in a toxic world where there are many factors playing on their mind, and these factors cause them to drift in their thoughts and so put vague information in, and so have trouble to relate to it later. Teaching and learning is not difficult if you understand what I'm saying. And if you think about this, you can obtain very, very high performance in your students. It isn't difficult. I've been doing it a lot of times, and it's very rewarding.